Hello students, today we'll do the fourth and final passage of the reading section of the December 2020 ACT form D03. I've already uploaded videos that discuss the first three passages of the reading section, so do check them out as well. This is the natural science passage, and this is a paired passage. Passage A is from the book Animal Wise, The Thoughts and Emotions of Our Fellow Creatures by Virginia Morel. Passage B is from the essay Big Love, The Emotional Lives of Elephants by Carl Safina. So when we do the questions, we'll do them passage-wise. So we'll do 31 to 34 first after reading passage A. Then we'll read passage B and do 35 to 37. And then finally, we'll do 38 to 40. Okay, so passage A. One of the most striking discoveries in neuroscience in recent years is the finding that elephants, whales, great apes, and humans all possess a peculiar kind of brain cell. These neurons were first discovered in human brains in the 19th century and were named von Economo cells after the Romanian anatomist Constantin von Economo, who identified them. At first, these spindle-shaped neurons were touted as the cells that make us human because they are connected to our feelings of empathy, love, emotional suffering, and sociality. Then in 1999, two other researchers, Patrick Hoff and John Allman, spotted von Economo cells in the brains of all the great apes. Others recently found them in monkeys. Allman has searched without luck for the cells in more than 100 other species, from sloths to platypuses. So it was big news when in 2007, he discovered spindle cells in the brains of whales, dolphins, and elephants, but it was a puzzling discovery too. Why should such a disparate group of animals have these specialized cells? Right, so the first paragraph kind of introduces the concept of spindle cells, these special kind of neurons that are found in the human brain, and how these spindle cells were subsequently found in the great apes, right? Even monkeys. And then in 2007, they were also found in whales, dolphins, and elephants. So what is it about these special type of neurons that they exist across such a wide spectrum of animals? From an evolutionary point of view, it's not surprising that primates and humans have von Economo cells since we are in the same lineage. But primates and humans haven't shared an ancestor with whales or elephants since about the beginning of the mammalian lineage. Some 60 million years ago, it seems that cetaceans and elephants evolved their spindle cells independently. What factors would produce such emotionally specialized brain cells? So this kind of explains the surprise at the presence of the spindle cells in whales, dolphins, and elephants, because even though whales and elephants are mammals like humans, they don't really, they branched out evolutionarily about 60 million years ago, right? And so the idea that something as specialized as spindle cells would be present in both is surprising. Allman thinks part of the answer lies in the size of the animal's brains. Most species that have spindle cells also have notably large brains, and in the location of the cells. Von Economo cells are always found in two regions of the cortex associated with emotionally charged visceral judgments, such as deciding whether a fellow animal is suffering. And part of the answer lies in the size of the spindle cells. They are unusually large, enabling them to act like high-speed circuits, fast tracking information to and from other parts of the brain while bypassing unnecessary connections. These are the kind of cells, Allman argues, that would be specially useful to an animal living in a complex society, a society in which making accurate, intuitive decisions about another's actions or facial or vocal expressions is crucial for your families and your survival. So this explains why the spindle neurons are present across a wide spectrum of animals. That's because they are present in animals that have complex societies, right? That exist in complex societies where you need to understand facial and verbal cues to be able to gauge if your family is in danger, right? So the idea that spindle cells are large and they only exist in brains that are of a certain size is indicative that there is a evolutionary cost to having them, and only complex society animals will have them. Okay, so question 31, passage A most strongly suggests that in the 19th century, anatomists generally believed our feelings of empathy, love, and sociality weren't part of what make us human. Von Economo cells existed only in the human brain. The spindle-shaped neurons that von Economo identified shouldn't be named for him, and it was crucial to search for von Economo cells in a variety of animals. So I'm leaning towards B because they were first discovered um, in human brains and were named von Economo. At first, they were touted as the cells that make us human, right? So because the idea was that they only existed in the human brain. So we'll go with B then. Okay, 32, it can most reasonably be inferred from passage A that Altman's search for von Economo cells in which of the following animals occurred last chronologically. So that's, I think that would be dolphins, right? Because it's very clearly said that Allman spotted them in the great apes and monkeys. He tried sloths and platypuses, but he did not find them there. But it was finally in dolphins that he found. Right. So this was G. The main point of the second paragraph of passage A, lines 21 to 29. So this is kind of answers or this kind of explains that surprise, right? Why was this surprising that such a wide spectrum of animals should have the spindle neurons, right? And that's because they diverged evolutionarily a long time ago. So it doesn't make sense for them to share this genetic material, or rather share this specialized neuron. So the main point is that at the beginning of the mammalian lineage, primates and humans shared ancestors with whales. Primates and humans are in the same lineage. Some animals seem to have been able to develop von Economo cells independently from primates and humans. And von Economo cells can be described as emotionally specialized brain cells. So I think the main idea is option C, right? That there is sense of, you can't really put it down to ancestry or lineage because some animals have deviated from primate and human lineage a long time ago. And so they have developed these von Economo cells independently. So C is a good answer. According to passage A, Allman believes a clear correlation exists between a species having spindle cells and that species having a close genetic link to whales, several types of neurons, a very large brain, a cortex. So it's very large brain. It's very clearly given in this paragraph that most species that have spindle cells also have notably large brains. So that's just H. Okay. Now we'll read the second passage. Carl Safina, anthropomorphism is the attribution of human motivation, characteristics, or behavior to animals, inanimate objects, or natural phenomena. In establishing the study of animal behavior as a science, it had originally been helpful to make anthropomorphism a word that raised a red flag. But as lesser intellects followed the Nobel Prize-winning pioneers, anthropomorphism became a pirate flag. If the word was hoisted and attack was imminent, you wouldn't get your work published, and in the academic realm of publish or perish, jobs were at stake. Even the most informed, insightful, logical inferences about other animals' motivations, emotions, and awareness could wreck your professional prospects. Right. So I think it's an interesting first paragraph, which is trying to say that when initially you were studying animal behavior, it was nice to kind of keep in mind that you should not fall to anthropomorphic tendencies or anthropomorphic explanations, because the idea was that you're studying an animal, and so you shouldn't kind of project your human biases or even general human biases on the animal's behavior. But this became so entrenched in academia, it has became so pervasive in academia that that now anthropomorphism was supposed to be this absolutely untouchable idea that was not supposed to account for or explain anything, right? And that The way the author has written it, that seems to be a tragedy because, and let's read further, why is that a tragedy according to the author? But what is a human emotion? When someone says you can't attribute human emotions to animals, they forget the key leveling detail. Humans are animals. Human sensations are animal sensations. Inherited sensations using inherited nervous systems. All of the emotions we know of just happen to be emotions that humans feel. So simply deciding that other animals can't have any emotions that humans feel is a cheap way to get a monopoly on all of the world's feelings and motivation. People who have systematically watched or known animals realize the absurdity of this, but many others still don't. The dilemma remains, wrote author Katrin Nicole recently, how to get an accurate understanding of the animal's nature and, if appropriate, emotions without imposing on them assumptions born of a distinctly human understanding of the world. So, this kind of presents that dilemma, which the author brings up in the first paragraph about this tendency to not speak of anthropomorphism. But the author is obviously on the other side of this debate, and it's is it a male or a female? Carl, it's a male, and he says that anthropomorphism should be allowed or should be permitted as an explanation for phenomena that are discovered because humans are animals as well, and if humans have emotions, it is reasonable to assume that other animals might experience the same emotions. And he presents this not so much in rather he presents it in very hereditary ways, right? He says that these are inherited sensations which are generated in the nervous system. So he presents them as very biological and all the more reason that other animals might have them. But tell me, what distinctly human understanding hampers our understanding of other animals' emotions? Is it our sense of pleasure, pain, hunger, frustration, self preservation, defense, parental protection? We never seem to doubt that an animal acting hungry feels hungry. What reason is there to disbelieve that an animal who seems happy is happy? We can't really claim scientific objectivity when we recognize hunger and thirst when animals are eating and drinking, exhaustion when they tire, but deny them joy and happiness as they are playing with their children and their families. Yet the science of animal behavior has long operated with that bias, and that's unscientific. In science, the simplest interpretation of evidence is often the best. And so this last paragraph kind of brings out this dichotomy between what science has traditionally considered as appropriate terminology for animal behavior and what it has not. So when we talk about hunger or when we talk about uh, thirst, then science is okay with saying that the animal feels these urges, these very basic urges, but science or academia rather is less comfortable talking about emotions like happiness and joy. And that is a travesty, as per the author, because the best evidence sometimes is the simplest evidence. And there is no reason to deny that evidence simply because it seems to be anthropomorphic or human. Okay, so 35, based on passage B, how does the passage author feel about the trend in the academic study of animal behavior that is described in lines 49 to 57? So this is 49. As lesser intellects follow the Nobel Prize winning pioneers. So he kind of, yeah, he strongly disapproves, he's ambivalent, he reluctantly approves, he enthusiastic. So he strongly disapproves, right? We very clearly know that lesser intellects were what was started as something that should be kept in mind as a caution became this red flag about not speaking of anthropomorphism, and so he disapproves. Based on the last paragraph of passage B, which of the following statements would be the clearest example of the simplest interpretation of evidence? So, the simplest interpretation of evidence he refers to is what you see and what you think is right, even if that is something that seems to be human. Parental protection is the most advanced and human like emotion that animals can feel. When animals seem frustrated in a frustrating context, the animals are feeling frustration. So that's a good answer. An animal that seems hungry might not necessarily be hungry. Humans' own emotions interfere with the ability to assess emotion in animals. So I think the simplest evidence goes with option G, that if you feel that the behavior of the animal indicates a possible interpretation that might be human, so to say, that is okay. That could be the best evidence. So G is the best answer. Okay. The author of passage B criticizes the conclusion that if humans feel a particular animal, then animals won't be able to recognize that emotion in humans, will want to learn, can't have that emotion, must have. So it's C, right? He criticizes the idea that if humans feel a particular emotion, then the fact that animals can't have that emotion is quite silly. That's what the author says. Humans and animals themselves, and so it's perfectly possible for other animals to have those emotions. Okay, so that brings us to the two passages, and we can kind of, if you look at the two passages, the first passage presents a very particular example of something that was discovered experimentally and which turned out to be present across a wide spectrum of animals, right? And that related to complex societies, animals with complex societies that share some characteristics like the need to understand facial and vocal expressions. And so that's kind of presenting a very evidence-based approach, right? The second passage is taking a more rhetorical stand in the sense that it's not really presenting evidence, but it's making an argument for allowing anthropomorphism as an explanation for animal behavior. And so let's try and do the paired questions. Which of the following statements best captures a key difference in the way the passages explore the link between human and animal emotions? Passage A focuses on neuroscience, whereas passage B focuses on observations of behavior. That looks like a good option. Passage A focuses on 19th century research, where passage B focuses on current research. That's not correct. Passage A focuses on survival drives, where passage B focuses on familial bonds. That's not correct either. Passage A focuses on anecdotal evidence. No, and passage B focuses. So that's not correct, right? Passage A is not anecdotal. Passage A is very specific, proper experimental evidence. So it's very clearly F. F is the point of difference. Which of the following statements best captures one difference in the purposes of passage A and passage B? Passage A aims to bluntly correct readers' assumptions, while passage B aims to confirm readers' assumptions. That's not it. There's no correcting or confirming readers' assumptions. Passage A aims to urge readers to action, while passage B aims to encourage readers to stop acting carelessly. I don't think that's correct. I don't think it's so much to do with what readers feel or need to do. Passage A aims to present two opposing viewpoints for readers to evaluate, while passage B aims to entertain readers. Okay. Passage A aims to inform readers about a recent finding, while passage B aims to challenge readers with a bold argument. Right. So I'm leaning towards D more than any other option because I think passage A is definitely informing readers about the finding about spindle neurons. And passage B is presenting this bold argument and saying that anthropomorphism is a good explanation. So I'm okay with option D. Yeah, definitely C is not a good answer because the purpose of passage B is not to entertain. So yeah, I'm leaning towards D. Okay, and the passages provide the clearest evidence for which of the following people performs work that is grounded in hands-on scientific research. So that's Allman, right? Because Allman actually did all that research. What was Nicole doing? No, Nicole was just presenting that dilemma, right? So it's not hands-on scientific research. So it's H, right? Allman is the one who does research. Okay, so let's grade our answers. This is 31 to 40. So we have BGCHA, BGCHA, GCFTH, GCFTH. Okay, so we got all correct. Great. So that was passage 4 and the final passage of the reading section of the December 2020 ACT. I'll put all the 4 explanation videos in a playlist and you guys can check them out. Hope this exercise was useful. If it was, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Share the content with your friends who are preparing for ACT. Help the channel grow. I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Take care. Bye bye.